Hello, y'all. Lisa Bowles, otherwise known as the Soul Mapper here. It is 1 o'clock Eastern on the dot. Thursday, what is that date? Oh my gosh, May the 29th, 2025. It is time for live for June. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making time, for investing your attention and your effort. And contributing your heart and your energy. I so appreciate it. Hello, Alex and Emma. Emma, you've been hanging out waiting, girl. Marilyn, Pam, Richard, PJ is joining us. Yeah. So there will be a handful of people who join us when they can. Peggy's coming in. So thank you for being patient, because we're not going to dive into live right away. We're not going to delay too much, but there's something I wanted to show you. So all you early comers, otherwise, folks, if you're listening to the replay, please do make sure that you pay attention to this next piece. I ran across it just a little while ago. It's a humdinger, and it underscores something we've talked about on repeat for about a year and a half now, maybe a little longer. And it is, we live the stories we tell. But this takes it a little deeper, and it comes from someone who is wise, wise. In large part, I think because they live in our society, impacted by things the average person is not, more deeply, and has to work with it, has no choice but to work with it, and provides us with additional context and layers of detail that feel important, especially right now. Okay, so Erica, can you make a note that we post this in the live group, so that if anybody wants to review it again or share it forward, they can. We'll also put the link in the notes. Okay, thank you, Erica. Please, let's share.
Well, reality is composed of the stories that we tell about it, what we choose to notice, and how we populate it. And one telling of this year, I could say, there were a lot of disappointments. There's a lot of alarm and sadness and confusion. Okay, that's true. But in another telling of this story, I persisted. Why is it that the first story that's so easy for me to populate is the catastrophizing one? And whose interests does that serve? It's so much easier for me to believe and struggle and to notice struggle than to perceive ease. And so one of the mantras I've been telling myself recently is, it gets to be easy. I have this narrative that everything has to be difficult and onerous and impossible. And that's not true. That's a story that I've told about what is true. Well, reality is...
Thanks, Erica. If you have a chance to follow Alok, I highly recommend you do. He's on all platforms, social media, except maybe Pinterest, but holy mackerel. Now, I want to say one more thing before we begin jumping into the regular live material for June. His shift from a story of struggle or catastrophizing does not negate or dismiss or ignore what's going on in the world around us. There's still work to this. But what he points to is that we live the stories we tell is a particularly necessary practice now. It has always been, but it is even more necessary now. Yeah? and that the folks who are more affected by what's going on around us, around the world, and in particular nations, you know who you are, that the truth of we live the stories we tell is even more imperative now. And to hear someone who is clearly living their mastery path, and if you don't know what that is, please put it in the chat and I'll make sure that we talk about it a little bit during Q&A. Has some really important things to say about it that could be of service to many of us. June, my friends, oh my goodness. My goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Let's begin. Want you to also know, Erica, we owe a big, big thank you to Erica. You're gonna hate that I'm doing this, sorry, Erica. She is really not well. She has had a kind of coldy flu. See, I knew she wouldn't like it. And she's here in service to us, even though she feels like crap, okay? If there's need for her to say something, she just know that she's gonna sound froggy and all the things, okay? And I'm gonna do my level best not to call on her, but just please send your heart out to her and all good love, healing, juju, okay? And your deepest thanks. We couldn't do today without her, okay? All right, June, my friends. It is one of the most opportune of the year. Not the only opportune, but one of the most significantly opportune, and I'm going to even say auspicious. It's just that in the context of what's going on around us, that's going to feel different than we've usually come to expect, okay? All right, let's dive in. Now, here's the big backbeats so that you have an opportunity to kind of tune back into what's working away in the background, okay? And always is throughout the year, so that, because one of the things that helps us attune to how our stars, our proxies are working for us and in what ways, and is to tune back in. Because, you know, life, but keeping our finger on this or bringing our finger back to it going, hello, I remember, helps us help us, okay? And working with them. Partnering becomes difficult when we forget we have partners. Alrighty? Okay, next slide, please. Now, these are all the shorter term influences that are still in play. Please take a snapshot of this, okay? It'll be in the notes, but a picture often is helpful. And I want you to notice that if you feel called, and I encourage you to do this, to kind of tune back in because of what I just said, note the date that this began, that each of them began, so May or April or even March in some cases. You can go back to the notes from that month and go zzz, and find it real quick to review. Alrighty? Now there's going to be a little bit of difference to the slides going forward. So I'm going to tell you that right now, so you won't be like, what the hell's going on? As our times continue to unfold, there are layers and layers of context and complexity. There's just no way to put it all on a slide. So going forward, we're going to be more concise with the verbiage that you're going to find on these slides. And we're going to talk about them as we go. I'll add the layers as we go, but just that level of detail is not going to show up on the slides, okay? Just so you know, no big fat surprises, no, you know, coming out of left field at you, alrighty? And the other thing is that the amount of work it takes to do that is getting bigger and bigger, and just with the number of things that are on the plate. Alrighty? Okay. Next slide, please. June's most noteworthy moves. Now, before we dive can we go back to the last slide, please, Erica? I want you to look at May 24th. May 24th. It's the second one there. Yeah, exactly there. So those two slides are really, really worth paying attention to. Why? Because the second major planet, our inner guru, otherwise known as Saturn, shifted from Pisces into Aries, first degree. We've talked about how important that is. For another preview, because Neptune, our dream keeper, moved into that position a month and a bit ago. Okay, so these two are now working together in a different sign. They've been working together for quite some time at the tail end of Pisces. Now they are working together at the front end of two brand new zodiacal cycles, like massive. And so that's why in my invitation to this and my reminder about today, I said, May's moves are really starting to feel themselves. This is a part of why, like, holy moly. And in the last few days, we've seen some stuff in the headlines that are reflections of this in the larger sense, okay? So as we go into June, next slide, please, Erica. I want you to keep that in mind. And that's part of the reason why reviewing becomes important. I carry this stuff with me all day because it's relevant to my everyday. It's relevant to your everyday too, but in a different way. And so these reminders, these touch-ins, these touchbacks become and will remain an important part of what we share together during live. And if you're a part of the current community, what we do together month to month to month, going deeper, okay? So now let's look at June's big moves. Next slide, please. With that awareness in the backdrop, okay? I'm gonna be looking at my notes a lot. So please be aware that if I'm not making eye contact, it's not because I don't love you, it's because I don't wanna oops and miss something, okay? All right, so here we go. June 6th. So we've got a few days before this really starts to kick in. Hanging out there till the 4th of July. Our charisma of cause, otherwise known as Venus, will be working through Taurus. Now, I want you to hold on to the notion of Taurus because it matters. And you'll know more about why in a couple of minutes. So first thing I want you to know is that our charisma of cause is at home here, loves it here, is so envitalized, is that even a word, is enlivened because she's here. She can work more easily. She is supported and boosted in big fat ways because she's home here. So just want you to know that right off the bat. Underscore the word home, okay? We'll talk more about that. This will amp the hunger or need for awakening our senses and whetting our appetites for all kinds of things related to pleasure, earthly, human experience, pleasure, and even luxury. Now, a lot of us think luxuriating is something we do when we have time, something we do when all the work is done, something, okay, get my meaning? But when Venus is here, she goes, and we're not talking about financial luxury, although a lot of people are going to go in that direction. This is about luxuriating in the experience and pleasure of being alive as a human. It will ask us to, quote unquote, indulge in earthly pleasures, whether that's a delicious plant-based meal that's local, to sticking your face into a bouquet of flowers and really luxuriating in the scent and the fragrance. You get my drift, okay? I want you to know the hunger for that, the need for that is going to be amplified beyond the usual because Venus is home here and she's more powerful because she's here, which is going to heighten the need, going to heighten the hunger. Be aware of that for yourself, be aware of that for your people, and be aware of that just in general. A great many of us have been taught we're not allowed this, or you only get this after all the works, you get what I mean. And Venus goes, make it a part of everything. It doesn't have to be sequestered to after, which often gets pushed off and isn't allowed at all. And to notice where you're resistant to it or where the people you work with and for are resistant, because it could matter. Let's go back to the word home again, because that is part of our experience of being at home in ourselves as physical human beings. Okay? We're allowed this hunger. Do we need to find ways to allow it in healthy, balanced ways? Mm-hmm. Especially, that's gotten pushed away a lot. And there's all kinds of stuff around it for women in general, so just keep that in mind. This is going to encourage us wildly to, these words are also difficult, but the best I have to offer is pamper ourselves, spoil ourselves and other people. Because inside this window, too much of a good thing feels just right because we're attempting to recover. Allow and put this back into the center of our lives in ways that are more integrated than we've been able to do in the past. Relationships can also deepen and become, I'm going to say, more serious in a way, because this particular move and its length wants to offer us relational stability, because it supports and encourages deepening connections and grounded commitments to one another and to ourselves. Okay? It can also offer us those encouragements in our relationship to our work. So then remember we were talking about, Alok said, talk about the story of ease. How about a story of pleasure in our work? Wow. Now, does that completely eradicate the fact that there's sometimes hard things to do? No. But how we approach it, that can change. And this wants to help. Okay? Oh my goodness. Alrighty? This is a big deal. Now we're going to come back to the word home more than once. And I just want you to know we're kind of kicking off with it. And this is just the first layer. All right? Next slide, please. Oh, the other thing, for those of you for whom pleasure, the pleasure of being in the experience of being human, the sensuality of that, and I'm not talking about sex, although sex is certainly a part of it, but the pleasure of being human, if that's part of your purposeful path, this is going to sing to you very loudly. Alrighty? Especially if for whatever reason you've been kind of resisting it or feeling guilty about it or all the things. Okay? And there's a couple of you whose work hangs around with this a lot, and I just want you to know I'm thinking about you. Okay, June 8th till the 26th. All right? Our communication savant, otherwise known as Mercury around here, is in Cancer. Now, notice the looking glass for those of you who took the deeper story of 2025. You know what that is. Excuse me. Okay, let's go explore a little more deeply. Alrighty? This is kind of a big deal too, because this one, this has relationship impact. So let's just review. Boundaries and privacy are one of the big themes in here. It wants to help us clarify our boundaries, particularly in and through communication. And communication isn't just words spoken or words written and shared, but our body language, the various ways our story is told. We live the stories we tell, which is why, partly why Alok's words at the beginning were important. When our communication savant is working here, you know, Cancer is very tender, very protective too, and often with appropriateness that others who have issue with self-possession find. So here's a couple of things that go with this. Boundaries and privacy in communication around our work, our ideas, or our inspirations about the work. This kind of gives us a nudge to keep things a little close to our chest and share them with those we know can be trusted to respect privacy and respect boundary. So if you're developing work, if you're testing work, this talks to you, okay? It also reminds us that there is tremendous richness in kind of testing our ideas or testing new innovations or, you know, kind of vetting the impact of the work, the outcome or results of new work, to do that in the company of those who are respectful of the work you're doing, the work you've done, that it is yours, etc., etc. Okay, so that's number one. Now's the time. If you've been considering a social media break, consider taking this period off from scrolling, from posting, okay? Just consider that you don't need to, and that the break may actually give you the room and the space and privacy you need to be more at home with your own work and your own inner conversations or insights about the work without the energetic that tends to come when we're dealing with a barrage, when we're interacting with, because that can keep us from being in touch with our own insights and their nuances and layers, okay? And because this is our communication stuff about working through Cancer, it's also emotionally oriented. It is sensation, but it is also emotional intuition. And that's an important thing to be aware of, because if we're constantly shielding ourselves so that we can participate in something that's, yeah, it can keep us from the quieter emotional messages and emotional intuition or insights that our work's trying to send us, or our own soul. The other thing that's really interesting about this is the zhuzh factor. I don't know how to spell zhuzh, so forgive me, I just made that up. The impulse here, and this could affect a number of people's work in the world, to zhuzh, but in a streamlined and even simplifying fashion that involves sensual yum yum, okay? But authentic emotional authenticity. It wants us to, and may not for everybody, but a lot of people may feel their energy getting pulled into judging their spaces, physical and online, to make it more cozy, to make it more comfortable. And I don't mean comfortable in the sense of turning us away from what's difficult, but making it a space that we want to go, okay, what we're going to be talking about is hard, but God, I feel at home here. There's that word again. Okay. So streamlining it, making space for, I feel at home here. This is difficult or challenging that the conversations or questions we'll be exploring might be, this is the place for me. And to take into consideration, the other thing we're talking about is, you know, luxuriousness of being, okay, at home. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Next slide, please. Now, this one, this is one of the most significant moves of the year. Yum. That's a good idea, Pam. I'll have to think about that one. June the 9th till June the 30th. Again, this is now June 30th, 2026. So this is a little longer than a year. When we spoke during the live for 2026 or the deeper story of 2026, we looked at these as one of the major moves of the year. And one of the most, yay! Because when our fortune finder, Jupiter, moves into Cancer, already, hasn't been here since 2014. And because it's moving here while all this other big stuff's going on, it is additive in ways that are particularly noteworthy, because when our fortune finder is working through Cancer, they're exalted. This is the most powerful position for them to be expressing from and proxying for us in the entire zodiac. Okay? Okay. Now let's explore the other points, because my goodness. It's a worldwide, can I speak, call for empathy, kindness, and compassion. In fact, what it will do, although it may take a little time, is put those qualities and approaches to relationship with almost everything back into vogue again. Okay? How do you like that? Now, the way that that will happen will be to a degree tempered by the fact that we got major stuff going on at the first degree of Aries, okay? Neptune, the Dreamkeeper, and Saturn, inner guru, and our transformer, Pluto, working through Aquarius. So just keep those backdrops in mind, because they're additive to this. They have some effect. So how we would bring empathy, kindness, and compassion back into vogue will be different because of those than they would have been when both Neptune and Saturn were working through Pisces, for example. Okay, it's going to be different, but if you think about that, that difference is now necessary, that it is informative, that it is eliciting, that it is potentially evolving. Pay close attention to how this begins to show itself and move through your own life. This is one of the ones you really want to pay attention to, because it will be a kind of balancer, for lack of a better word, with all the other energies. Okay. Moving to center stage because of this, and because we have some other stuff going on, Taurus, Cancer. Okay. Moving to center stage as a focus is home and family. But those words are, because of the stuff that's going on in Aries, because of the transformation stuff that's going on in Aquarius, those two words and what they mean now is being, you know, kind of like, what do they mean now? What are they now? And how important is the living of those things relative to the outer context of what's going on? Okay, but they will be firmly center stage for the next year, starting June the 9th, a little more than a year. This is, because of this, it is a stellar time to create sanctuary and to discover what sanctuary is now. sanctuary that nourishes your soul, that nourishes your sense of who you are, even as it is evolving. And I mean that. Aries, okay, transformation. So there'll be some movements and shifts, but this, because our fortune finder here is exalted and most powerful, we are getting some serious support, big time support, and not just on the personal front, but in the largest sense of community and nations and globe. You get my drift. Okay. The one thing it will, so watch for this. It could have us become, from propensity, because we are anxious, because we are nervous, because there's actual concern, occupy the same four walls and not leave it. That focus becomes very insular. That's not what this wants. Remember, our fortune finder is about expansion. Expansion of our understandings of home, expansions of our creation of home, expansions of the offering and holding of sanctuary that genuinely nurtures, etc., that furthers life. It will also help us reconnect to, or feel compelled to reconnect to, relatives that are at a distance. And distance is a word with layers. So that could be relational distance, that could be geographic distance, so just hang out with the word distance and what it calls and elicits for you or in you. It may also, I'm thinking about a couple of people whose work works in this area, it may call you to take what could be a life-changing trip to your ancestors' homeland. All right? You know who I'm talking to, if it's you. All right? There is so much opportunity inside this. It is gobsmacking. It is one of the most beautiful, gorgeous, balancing, yamana aspects of the entire year. Which is why I said June's looking pretty good. Okay. Those of you who are members of the current, when we gather next Friday, we're going to explore more deeply, because there's lots more layers here that we just can't cover during this time if we're going to do the whole month. But pay attention and please join me during Live with Lisa. Okay. June 11th. Oh my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. There's almost no way because this is going to urge strongly, because Sagittarius is a big energy. When we got full moon here, we got even more like big energy. But it is going to urge us not to be modest, to touch in with our own natural, native, authentic, quote unquote, too muchness or muchness, because this calls upon us to allow ourselves to stand in it without apology, without withdrawal, to just stand in the ways in which we were designed to be substantive and without false modesty or protective modesty. Okay, I hear someone's mic on. Thank you.
I have a quick question. You're talking about something in Sagittarius.
Oh, okay. Did I get off? I got off. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you, Melissa. Okay. Thank you. So there's almost no way to, there will be almost no way to avoid this unless you're really, really, really working hard because of unhealed trauma and deep conditioning. So just know that this will ask you, well, all of us, to stretch beyond the limits of what's safe and familiar. Now, given the larger outer context, to many of us that could feel Terrifying. How do you be with your own terror and still allow this proxy nudge call to work for you and within you, in your work and in your life? Okay? Untold opportunities and potential yum outcomes with this one. Like, just seriously. It will also want to help you understand the difference between a savvy risk and a foolish gamble that is impulsive. This wants us to be more deeply in touch with the deeper story, the deeper layers of nuance and context, so that we aren't foolish and but in touch with the truth. What this wants to help us do is epically acknowledge and express our own personal and authentic truth, combined with the call to adventure or broaden our horizons or experience diverse things or people or ideas, and allow because there's a push in here into new terrain that once we kind of be with our terror and also be with our don't tell me what to do, because there will be, because there's push here and a call to truth and a call beyond our comfort zones, there could be a lot of internal just don't tell me what to do that will work at cross purposes with purpose and where you're being elicited, how you're being elicited. So keep that in mind. Once you address the terror and lean into this, where this is calling you, inspiration could just blow your mind. One last thing, and again, talking to a couple of people whose work is in this area in a variety of ways, if you have the time and the means, take yourself on an epic getaway. Actually go and geographically broaden your horizons. Now you can do that through classes, personal growth work, spiritual evolution work, but make sure it is something you have never experienced before. It comes from an experience that takes you out of your comfort zone, that offers you a kind of diverse, an introduction to another perspective or set of perspectives, or actually go to a place you've never been before, into a culture you've never experienced before, all right, but are called to. This could be massive. That in combination with the other things we've discovered. Okay, now, the day before, the day of, the day after, most intense, the 2 weeks after, big ripples, but this is gonna last 6 months. So this will be teaming up and partnering with where our fortune funders working as a proxy for us, and that's particularly noteworthy. Okay. Next slide, please. June 17th till August the 6th. This is so worth paying attention to. Now notice Looking Glass, okay? Our action instinct Mars working through Virgo. Oh my goodness. Now remember, Aries, where both Neptune and Saturn are working first degrees, kicking off 2 brand new big zodiacal cycles. The governor or overseer of Aries is Mars. Okay? Yeah, because there's connection here. Working through Virgo. Whew, people. So, this will, so I'm just gonna, can you say optimize for efficiency? It wants us to turn our important matters, ideas into actionable plans, complete with budgets and schedules. Now, not to lock you into like this, not to make it a monolith, but to have something that you can act upon, action instinct, okay? And it's the Virgo nature to be efficient, to optimize, to convert things, ideas into physical, everyday, earthy plans. Now, if you're not someone who finds that easy, both hands in the air there, this will help you. For those of you who naturally lean this way, this will help you too. And it may show you things about how you thought optimization and planning was supposed to go, ain't necessarily that there's other ways. Because there's a healing aspect alive in this, and that's important to keep in mind. Many will be urged or cold or motivated to bring a health or healing focus into this. The other thing to keep in mind is that just because of so there could be a kind of paradoxical vibe to this, because Mars, our action instinct, especially given the other stuff that's going on in Aries, kind of brings a fix it fast energy to it. Just do it. Okay? And Virgo's like, hang on, hold on, because it's a very earthy vibe. It's like moving unnecessarily fast so that we feel relief or return to simplicity or, yeah, we'll miss things. But do lean into the pull, if you feel it, to improve your life, from your eating habits to your workflow to, yeah, okay? There is no better time to look at and begin the process of integrating into your everyday, whether it's physical or professional, a wellness routine. Because the motivation and attention to the important things that will make this become something you can live every day, to track it, to stick to it, etc. So that combo of our action instinct and Virgo, yamana, yamana, yamana. Okay? If you're someone who helps people with health plans or wellness plans or fitness plans or fitness in work or in business or in, like, just keep that in mind. Yum. All right? The last thing I'm going to say about this is our action instinct, when coming from propensity, and if you were, again, part of the courses we did last year, you know what that word means. There's propensity and then there is elicitation. The Aries energy, the Mars energy, can be lived from propensity to be about just do it, damn it, and, you know, control over oneself, more like punishment, control. When it teams up with Virgo, it's like, how can we help ourselves return, actively return through shifts in living to self-possession and sovereignty that is more healthy for us and around us because of our effect on things, for anyone whose life we touch. Ding, ding, ding. Okay? In these times, that's kind of a big deal. Now think about that in relationship to the other things we've talked about. This is one of the reasons why June is kind of an auspicious month. Okay? And think about that in relationship to all these other things we've covered. So that as we're attempting to optimize for efficiency, we're doing it from self-possession, which would seriously change things. Okay? Etc., etc. Okay, next slide, please. Cancer, happy birthday, Cancer. June 20th till July 22nd, our force of nature, the sun, moves into Cancer. So we've got Cancer, Cancer, Cancer plus Taurus. Okay? So what does this potentially mean for us? Oh my goodness. We're all more likely to radiate warmth and connection and nourishment, okay? Because the radiation effect of the sun working through Cancer amps those things. It also will have many of us, metaphorically speaking, put the focus of our heart's attention on home. So here we are again. But what does that mean? Again, we're begging the question because we're in transformation and we're at the beginning of 2 brand new zodiacal cycles, visioning, dreaming, and etc. Right? Okay. Making our dreams become more real. Now, that's not just Snappo magic. It's so we're asking ourselves some serious questions during this preview time, and this adds some really significant layers. How do we bring back feelings of warmth and connection and nourishment? Right? Our heart's attention will naturally want to be given to home. That's where our hearts are naturally going to direct themselves. It will have, again, many of us want to set up our spaces for 2 things, nesting and nourishment, so sanctuary again, but also guesting, inviting people in. Dearest friends, oldest friends, beloved relatives, etc., etc. There's going to be a bit of a nostalgic vibe to this. Again, think about the difference between nostalgia that is from proclivity and nostalgia that is from elicitation. Okay? So hanging out with folks dear to you, deepening the connection, renewing those connections, hanging out on the beat. Okay, so all the stuff that tends to be alive in the Northern Hemisphere during the summertime or the beginning of summertime. Okay? You may find yourself again compelled to visit hometowns or homelands. We talked about that earlier. This may also, because the heart wants attention and its tenderness, especially when it's working through this particular combo, it may surface or begin to surface tender emotions that haven't gotten attention before and need attention now. Don't keep them in. Think about that when you're working with folks too. Because there could be cathartic moments while this is in play that could change lives. Alrighty? Now, because of what's going on with Pluto, our transformer in Aquarius, in combination with this, the catharsis is real, but it also says, don't try this alone. Okay? This catharsis potential wants to help more of us come home to ourselves and to recognize that these days, because of Pluto working through Aquarius, we can't do that by ourselves. And that the best way of staying anchored is to be in containers of support and amplified congruence, amplified intention, lived intention, because that will prevent or give you stability so that you don't spiral into emotion if it starts to surface and become raw. Okay? And I mean that most sincerely. If you are one who does deep emotional work, you're a therapist, etc., pay close attention to this window. Working with clients in particular ways, especially group work, could change lives in a really meaningful way. Okay? Next slide, please. How are we doing on time? Okay. Ooh, again, auspiciousness. Our fortune finder Jupiter goes Cazimi. Now, we talked about this last year and the year before. This is the day known as the Day of Miracles. Super opportune, once a year meetup in a once in a decade position in Cancer. So we've talked about home. We've talked about the heart, right? So when I said in my invitation or reminder note that the repetition here, this is what I'm talking about, the repetition could mean big things for people. That's what I'm talking about. So this is kind of in the midst of all this delicious, exalted, amplified, opportune focus, this comes along. Holy moly. Okay. Yeah. Fortune shines particularly on home, family. And again, these are questions we're asking ourselves because we're at the beginning of a new zodiacal cycle and a period of transformation. So keep that in mind. But home, family, personal finances, professional finances, finding or selling the perfect listing. By listing, I mean home property, or the home for your business. So that could be online too. And bearing the hatchet with folks, particularly relatives, not because you're trying to force something to happen, but because you're trying to liberate yourself and potentially the relationship, but you're aware that bearing the hatchet will liberate you. And then all home-based business endeavors, oh my goodness, like, can you say launch day? Can you say really good time to go? Okay. Hello. Either it's a new enterprise, it's part of your enterprise, it's part of your just wow. Wow. Now, don't expect I take action now 24 hours later, manna from heaven. Like it's not that magical, but leaning into the energy of this day, just stand back and watch. Over time, stand back and watch. You will have to engage in the questions about family, about home, about all those other things. But so knowing this now, we have a little less than a month. Knowing this now will afford you the time and space to ask those questions and be closer to the evolving truth of what this is for you now, okay? In your work, in your life, and with your clients. So keep that in mind for your clients too. All right. Next slide, please. Oh, my friends. Okay, looking glass, folks, you know what this is. Oh my goodness, a new moon in Cancer. So we got more. We got more. So let's go review what this affords and offers. Oh my goodness. Close-knit connections are supported and favored when you kind of tighten the radius of your inner circle. So you have ample room to devote quality attention, particularly to the folks who are or tend most to be supporters in your life. Unwavering, although that's a kind of a absolute. I mean, I don't think anything is absolutely unwavering except for the connection with the divine, which we don't always feel in an unwavering fashion, but you get what I mean, okay? Over the 2 weeks, this is most active, but then kind of working in the background for 6 months. Consider making whatever room you can for singing the praises to those folks and make sure they get real, deep, genuine, rich attention from you. I spoke to someone recently who had started feeling this really early. She's very, very, very attuned to the moon and her personal moon, Cancer. So that kind of explains a little bit why this. She's been having a conversation with herself about this kind of thing, in part because she was recently part of an event that was up here in Canada, we have something called MAID, M-A-I-D, and it is medically assisted death. And it is supported by the government. It is legal and it's supported by the government, et cetera, et cetera. She went to a really gorgeous ceremony where someone who was passing was celebrated to their face. That the people who love them have been touched by them, have been inspired by them, got to hear it before they were gone. Normally those things are said after. She's like, nah, now. That's so I'm not suggesting you tie the notion of passing to this, but so you're present too. How often we put that off. And this will ask you not to. It will also remind you that the person you're honoring, respecting, investing time, energy, and attention in is as much a nurturing gift to yourself as it would be to them is important, and that could change your life. Don't be surprised if spending time near water is calling your name. It will be particularly rejuvenating for a great many people. The more water you have in your map or your birth chart, the bigger this will be, especially if your moon is Cancer. So say yes to your own yearning for water. And that can be, going to a pool party. That can be going, spending a weekend near the water. It can be a creek in the back of someone's property. It can be an ocean or a sea, like it can be, but just don't be surprised if you're called to be near or in water. And if you're someone who's landlocked and that gets difficult, that can be your bathtub, just saying, okay? This may also, in dreams, have you, especially the night before, day of, and day after, have you dream, waking dream or sleeping dream, of a dreamy new place to be. Physical place, real estate. Or remember we talked about the zhuzhing? How to update your spaces so they are what we talked about earlier. More sanctuary, more nourishing, etc., etc. If part of your work in the world is helping people find properties to make home, just want you to know, pay particular attention to this, okay? Whether you're cleaning out a storage space or doing a house blessing ritual, or this is going to be very alive. And if your work involves things associated with physical home, pay close attention. It is the perfect time for mid-year energy cleansing to refresh and even reset your most sacred spaces. So please be aware that because of expansive maximizer Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune working in Aries, that we could bite off more than we can chew with this one, okay? We could overextend ourselves, or coming from proclivity, we could just say, I'm gonna do all the things and I'm gonna do it in 36 hours. And scope creep could be a very real thing. So could be unrealistic expectations of ourselves. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. This is a big one. Next slide, please. Communication savant, starting June 26th and lasting till September the 2nd, begins to operate through Leo. Now, we've got some date ranges in here. Let me explain why. So the 26th of June till July 18th is when our Mercury is moving forward through Leo. And then starting the 18th until the 11th of August, goes retrograde, starts going backwards. Okay, so the tone's going to change. Notice the looking glass, folks. And then August 11th till September the 2nd, the former approach, the first one, June 26th till the 18th of July, it resumes, but it asks us to take stock as we resume of what we've just seen or experienced or shifted or come to recognize during the retrograde. Okay, so let's touch in quickly with the themes so we have that in hand too. Okay, playfulness, passion, liveliness, warmth, enthusiasm, even a touch of theatrical flair. But it is, so here's where the word performative gets a little weird or confusing, because the best performers, actors, let's just say theater folks, are actually in the moment to be as true to the character and the genuine experience of being human as that person they can express. It's about genuineness and authenticity, sometimes even rawness, that elicits a response that can catapult us into our next truest expression. So expressing ourselves, first chunk. And then during the second chunk, July 18th till the 11th, while in retrograde, our communication savant will ask us to kind of dial things down, dial them back, power down, and look for any places of unresolved tension around self-expression, genuine, eliciting, et cetera, that keep us from being playful. Not performatively playful, but genuinely playful, that keep us from the next experience or expression of passion, that keep us from being lively. You get the drift, okay? And then beginning August 11th, running until September the 2nd, it says, okay, let's go back again, but bring with us what the retrograde has helped us see. How does that liberate more of your expressive self? Okay? It's a good one. It's a good one. Again, think about that with all the other things of the month. Additively contributing. Wowza. Next slide, please. Okay. Before we go into opportune days, I just want to say this. I've had a couple of conversations over the month from people who, because I say keep these in mind, feel overwhelmed. It's like sucking on a fire hose. Here's what I want to say. And we've talked about this often, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper because it's going to matter, especially because of Jupiter moving into Cancer. If overwhelm takes you out of connection with yourself, and then in what way can you bring yourself back home? So what do I mean by that? How do you come back to your own sense of, I don't need to worry about missing out here. My own life will tell me, signal to me, nudge me into which of these are most critical for me to invest myself and pay attention to. Okay? The other thing, and I've made a couple of suggestions, like if you need to take a step back and maybe touch in with each segment, each move of the month, be with that and then step away and hang out with that for a day or two, and then come back and touch in with the next move, or only the moves that are calling you. Okay? If you have more air in your map than the other elements, it's very likely you will connect with the ideas, and that's natural for you. If you have more fire, it will be through movement that you connect. If you are water, it will be through feeling. If you are earth, it will likely come from artistic expression, often moving your body, like in artistic creative expression of some kind or another, or caring for something physically with your hands, with your body, with your legs. Okay? That will help, particularly given the fast pace of things and the tone of our times. All right. Opportune days. We have a couple. Next slide, please. Communication teamed up with expansion equals. Yep. Words flowing more effortlessly and a kind of easierness to get conversations that really matter started, especially in business. Okay? Communication teamed up with expansion. Now, we have to allow the expansion. We have to allow that it might take us out of our comfort zone. We have to allow, and we might not know what that means, but if we allow it or notice where we're living, that will help. Okay? June 18th. Oh my God. Spirit of visionary spirituality. Hi. And it's going to offer us breakout big ideas or fresh possibilities. I also want you to know that if you lean into this, and it can be a little, breathtaking and not necessarily experienced in the best way, because there's an accelerated pace involved with this one. And it's not just a single day, but it's really, really high this day, like high. It will bump into the places where we attempt to hold on to control. Now, the reason to pay attention to this is if you let yourself lean into whatever degree is possible for you, the becoming real bit is also going to be accelerated, potentially. It will be the degree to which you're able to lean in and loosen up and allow. Ready? So between now and the 18th, pay attention maybe to the ideas that have been floating around with you, or at the edge of your awareness, at the edge of your, like something's nudging, but I can't quite be with that if that's true for you, because this day could be enormously helpful. Okay? June 27th, looking glass. Speaking with confidence, conviction, and authority. And I don't mean, authority. I have, because of my experience, my years of study, my years of practice, my education, or all things combined, I have some authority in this subject matter. Not I have authority over you. Okay? That matters. To be someone who recognizes and elicits sovereignty and self-possession in combo with this, holy moly, equals an unstoppable kind of messaging power on this day and for a bit after, just because of what's in play. Okay? And then the 28th, heightened creativity and intuition partnered together with assertiveness. Okay, but again, assertiveness that's respectful, recognizing and respectful of sovereignty and self-possession, holy moly, including your own. In fact, starting with your own. Okay, next slide, please. Neutral days, we got a couple of those. Next slide, please. So first, we're talking about the 22nd. Now, some of us might still experience this in a kind of bumpy fashion, but the opportunity to, how do I say this? The pull of proclivity won't be nearly as strong as it is during hotspot days. We have more opportunity here. There's opportunity all the time, but it'll be easier to live these couple of days. So June the 22nd, looking glass. If your stomach's in knots, touch in with yourself compassionately to see which of your needs aren't being recognized or met. And I don't mean by someone else, although that might be part of it, but first by yourself, because you were indoctrinated or punished into ignoring your needs or dismissing them or discounting them or not even seeing them. This could be a hugely important day. And if you work with clients, okay, June 23rd, martyrdom competitive caretaking alert. Oh my goodness. Proclivity, proclivity, proclivity. And if you are someone who has been, it's been part of your work to witness where this is in your patterns, the opportunity to kind of flip this over, not for good and not comprehensively, but a really big chunk, so that you are liberated from the propensity side. The big day, big, big, big day. Okay. Next slide, please. We got some hotspot days. Now, 2 of these hotspot days, the 9th and the 15th, there's more than one hotspot activity kind of working together. So keep that in mind as we continue on. Alrighty. Next slide, please. So the 9th, low, wowza, 3, not just 1, not just 2, but 3. So number 1, defensive or jump to conclusions or knee jerks, thin skin, lash out kind of. So this is really from propensity for most of it, just because of the nature of what's moving. Wowza. The second influence that's hotspot working at the same time is power struggle, emotional fisticuffs. I was wrong. Kind of a day. Woven in with what we just talked about, and number 3, betwixt between kind of a day, because logic will be with intuition. The urge to dominate using logic, using rational thinking, using, okay? So it's going to be a humdinger of a day. This is not a good day for taste tests or webinars or, you know, come work with me, like, just don't. Alrighty, there's just going to be a whole lot going on. And you heard me say earlier, like, we're going to be encouraged to kind of step away from social media. If that's not something you feel you can do because you have commitments, etc., I would just stay off this day. I will be off this day. Pay attention to the conversations that are going, but don't engage with them. And just watch. Okay? June 15th, times 2. So the first one, negotiation no bueno. Okay? Because there will be significant my way or the highway proclivity tension. Okay? And then number 2, same day, hypersensitivity, and I mean hypersensitivity, prideful ego, not healthy ego, but the insistence on building our sense of self, okay? And petty authoritativeness. And I don't mean I'm an authority in the subject matter, because it's dominance. Equals press, pause, pass kind of a day. Okay? So I'm going to say again, if the whole month being off social media does not work because you have commitments and etc., this is another day I would just, and I don't mean don't observe, don't witness, don't hold space for, but don't engage with, because you could be hair triggered so fast. Alrighty. And then the last one, June 29th. It's a buttons triggered and toyed with, particularly around how you communicate, what you communicate, because it's a communication driven kind of a day. The one additional thing I'm going to say about this is it will be far easier than usual to make or come from faulty assumptions. So keep that in your back pocket. Maybe put it in your calendar. Okay. Again, none of these days are great for taste tests, webinars, come work with me, converse, like, just don't. I wouldn't. Alrighty. Next slide, please. Yes, we're going to do the Favoured Fields. Now, you probably have noticed I've kind of pointed to a few throughout today, but here we go. Next slide. I'm not going to review them all. Take a screenshot or make sure you download the notes PDF. Relationship work. So I got a big fat. That's not just about relationship with intimates. That's about relationship with life, with yourself, with your proxies, with your just relationship. So keep that in mind if relationship work is part of what you do, or it's the lion's share of what your purposeful work is. Okay. Number 4, I'm going to say it again. Randy Buckley, R-A-N-D-I, Buckley, B-U-C-K-L-E-Y, is the best person I know of for this. Now, she doesn't talk about privacy. I don't think that's woven into her work, but yeah. Alrighty. Do take a look at the list of favored fields for the whole year. So that's from live for 2025, because that could be useful. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you, Erica. Our next live for July is on Thursday, June 26th at our usual time of 1 o'clock Eastern, whatever time that happens to be for you where you live. You might want to put that in your calendar now, because July's kind of a big deal too. Okay. Okay. Next slide. So I would love to hear from you. We're about 15 minutes past the hour, so there was a lot to cover. I wanted to make sure I was as thorough as possible with the layers of nuance and context so that you have them. Now you probably have a much better understanding of why the verbiage on the slides and in the notes to a degree, because they're reflections, is less than normal because there's just so much and it's all here. Okay. I'd love to hear from you now. What questions do you have? Anything you want to share? Did something go poof or whoa? Yeah. And if you're watching the replay or your questions come to you in a couple of days or next week, please be sure to come on over to the private Facebook group for live and ask or share your questions or a house there so we can all learn together.
Melissa's got her hand up, Lisa.
Thank you, Erica. Hi, Melissa.
Hi. Amazing, amazing. And lots of this is already kicking in. But what's really startling me is my memory is crystal clear about things I haven't thought of in 30 years. Dates,
Wow.
times, places, buildings, names. What's going on?
I'd have to look at your map itself to tell what. So,
Okay.
yep. I'd have to look.
So it's not being triggered. Well, it is obvious.
I
Okay,
can't say
thanks.
that that's not the case either. It probably is, but how and in partnership with what in your map, I could only help with that if I took a look at your map.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And yay.
It's weird. Fun.
Yay. I saw Kalita asked a question. Hold on, Kalita. Do you want to ask it here or should I just go to the chat and look? Okay, I'm going to go to the chat. I did see your email and I did respond. So take a look.
So I didn't see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take another look because it might have gotten rerouted to your junk or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you still don't see it, can you reach out to concierge at the Soul Map and let Erica know? And one way or another, I'll get my response to you again.
I'll do my best.
Perfect.
Adele had her hand up next.
Hi, Adele.
Hello, Lisa and everyone. So I have a question. It may be a general astrology question or related to June. So gosh darn it. I know, gosh, there was so much richness. I was in particular drawn to the lunar energy that you were talking about, the new moon on, it's in my calendar. I take notes.
Good.
Good.
Love to hear that.
Yes, it's like in my Outlook calendar has like 8 bars on every day of where all the planets are, and I
Good
love
for
it. It's like,
you. Good.
and then I take notes in the note section. But so okay, we'll just say the moon, right? This month.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that that energy of the day of is in effect for a few weeks before and a few weeks after.
Not before. So the day before, the day of, the day after, and that changes relative to your time zone, where you are in the world, dates, lines, etc.
Okay.
The day before, the day of, the day after, most alive for 2 weeks after.
And that's for full, right? Or new?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
Both. And for about 6 months until that new or full moon occurs in its reflection. Okay.
Until that new or full moon occurs.
So
in its
until if it's a
reflection.
full moon, then the new moon in that sign 6 months later.
Okay, fascinating. Okay. And so then some of the other themes, I didn't take linear notes. I put them in my calendar days. But I remember you saying, because there was so much richness, like Jupiter being in Cancer, for example, and you were saying, and this energy will be in effect for 6 months after? No?
No, Jupiter, our fortune finder working through Cancer, is there for a little more than a year.
Oh.
And it's weaving into and offering support to other moves, like the moon happening in Cancer, okay? Like other planets working through Cancer, like other Cancerian or even the Turian movements. They
Right.
are kind of weaving into each other and offering ripples of partnership and support, okay?
Right. So, okay. So for like, this may sound really duh, or I
Go
call it
bring it,
duh.
baby,
Right.
bring
So,
it.
okay. So we're going to be in the earth will be in the sign of Cancer. The sun will be in Cancer. Jupiter will be in Cancer.
Uh-huh.
Right. So is that part of the context of the amplification?
Yeah, remember I said in the invitation, we are getting a big and repetitive theme, and that's this.
Okay.
That's exactly what you're talking about. So when you review what you put in your calendar, or if you decide you want to come back and review live or take a look at the notes, you'll see the repetition, and I would pay attention to Cancer and Taurus. More Cancer than Taurus, but Taurus is teaming up because there's kindredness. Okay.
And then there's a lot of things happening in Aries, right? All of a sudden.
Not all of a sudden. It's been with us for a bit. But because we have Neptune, our dream keeper, who's been in the first degree of Aries, 0, 1 degree, and now for 4 days, Saturn, our inner guru, we have lots and lots of, whoa, like just big Aries energy at the beginning of 2 brand new zodiacal cycles while Pluto is working through Aquarius. That's all very, very meaningful. And then we have an addition of some work happening in Aries. Again, go check your notes to refresh your memory, because that weaves into and adds to the Aries stuff. Okay. And not because it's Aries, it's because it's Mars, our action instinct, who is the overseer, the guardian, the keeper of
action.
Aries. Okay.
Right, of Aries, right. And I have 0 degrees Mars. So yeah, that's why I'm always like,
I be paying close attention.
Propensity, I gotta reel it in.
Yeah, well, so reel it in, or I would offer instead witness and work with, so that, because what you're attempting to do is elevate it, elicit yourself into liberation from propensity. You can't reel something in because that implies control.
I see. Okay.
That's Aries coming from propensity, my love.
Oh, it's like Aries-ing it, Marsing itself.
That's exactly, well, our Marsing itself from propensity. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. So rich. This is so helpful. Thank you. I finally feel like I'm starting to understand the language.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the questions.
All right, you've got Richard with his hand up.
Hi, Richard. I'm glad you're here. I can't hear you, Richard.
Let me see what's going on.
Hello, Richard, you still there?
Yeah.
Hi, hello,
Huh.
can you hear me?
I'm trying. I can hear you, but can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I can see you too.
Okay. All right. That was weird. The controls got switched. I had two questions. There were two things you mentioned, and I didn't get it. The sun in Cancer, the first thing you said was more likely to blank. And then Mercury moves into Leo, the pre-retrograde period. Express your fine self with blank. So what did I miss?
Okay, so Mercury and then the sun in Cancer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go back to my notes because contrary to popular belief, I don't have all this firmly in my brain.
Yeah, I teach with notes too, my dear.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just go look. The sun in Cancer, that starts on the 20th of June and lasts till the 22nd of July. We're more likely to radiate
Oh,
warmth and connection and the call to nourishment. They are qualitative expressions and values of Cancer. And so when the sun is working through Cancer, that is very alive and we're pulled in their direction. The other thing I mentioned is that home, home is where the heart is. When we say that, that is particularly alive here, but we're also, because of what's going on right now, with transformation and with these two brand new zodiacal cycles, starting with our dream keeper and our inner guru at the beginning of Aries, we're asking big questions about what home is, metaphorically, spiritually, actually. So there's all kinds of questions going on, and the pull to set up our spaces, our living spaces or our virtual spaces, both for sanctuary, for nesting deeply, for being nourished and cared for by our spaces, and for guesting, inviting people in. And that can be your physical spaces, but it can also be your virtual spaces, your workspaces. That's going to be pretty alive too. Did that answer the question about that for you, Richard?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And if we were doing if you were looking at my chart, you'd be laughing.
Okay. I'm glad you know your chart that well.
Oh, it's my it's the up above the um I
The
forget
horizon.
yeah, the high point, what you're reaching for
Okay, got it.
in my
Oh,
chart.
wow.
I
Okay.
forget what that's called. The IC, I think, the inner chillum.
Midheaven is what you're reaching for?
Midheaven, yeah.
Yep.
Midheaven.
Yep. Okay. And then you asked about Mercury, who will be working through Leo in a variety of ways, starting June 26th and lasting till September the 6th. So what we reviewed was 3 phases. June 16th till July 18th, express playfulness, passion, aliveness, warmth, enthusiasm, theatrical flair. We talked about why and the difference between performativeness and performance that elicits authenticity and emotional connection, et cetera, et cetera. Then he goes retrograde. And because of the retrograde in Leo, he will be asking us to dial it back, power down, and try to resolve tension in communications or through communications. Now, you have the opportunity to ask that question and do that work before the retrograde starts. During the retrograde, you may just find yourself in a position to need to, because the retrograde's nudging you. So keep that in mind. You can do the work in advance, or you can wait. And I'm not saying you're not going to do it in advance because you're, being willfully resistant, but because you might just not see it. And the retrograde may help bring it to the surface enough, or present, like kind of, it's not in your face because it's trying to be an asshole, but because it just hasn't occurred to you that that's something, because it's been unconscious. Okay. And then August the 11th, the retrograde stops. Give it a little bit because it winds down. It has some wind down. Remember, we're talking about post shadow, but Then we'll be asked to go back to the former approach. So express yourself with playfulness, but to take into that, okay, so resume, please go ahead with what we become aware of or what has shifted in us, or what we've deepened in terms of understanding or insight because of the retrograde. Is that helpful?
Yep. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, you've got Melissa with her hand up, and you also have a question from Adele in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Melissa?
Hi, I just realized most of these planetary placements are also exalted in my chart.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to how exponentially, I mean, what am I looking at? Since my Jupiter is in Cancer, my Venus is in Taurus.
They'll be talking to you pretty loud. Yep.
So
And they'll be talking to you earlier than the actual official quote unquote start dates. So don't be surprised if they're not, because these are both your proxies and your partners. So pay attention to, I would pay attention to house placement, because that's the area in life they'll be wanting to work. They will be working.
Second and sixth.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Is that helpful? Does that help clarify things for you some, Melissa?
It does. I'm glad I'm in the Modern Eldership Academy right now with Chip Conley.
Uh-huh.
So perfect. All right.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Melissa.
Yep.
Adele in the chat. Let me see. Oh, the big news, zodiacal cycles. Okay. We didn't cover that today. I touched in a little bit on it at the very beginning. But whenever a major planet, one of the big outer planets, and by outer I mean their orbit is out in our galaxy beyond the orbit of Earth. They're called the big outer planets. They affect our human world, our social interactions, how we culture, all that stuff. When they move in big ways, change sign, because they're slow moving, so they tend to stay in signs for years, depending on which one we're talking about. So when they change signs, we see cultural change of one kind or another relative to the sign they are beginning to or are expressing through. But Neptune, our dream keeper, and Saturn, our inner guru, have both moved from the end of the zodiac, which is Pisces, where they've been working in concert with one another for quite some time. They have both moved into Aries, the beginning of a brand new zodiacal cycle. So we start in Aries and we go all the way around to Pisces, which can take a considerable amount of time. And that's called a cycle, a zodiacal cycle. They're big deals.
Okay.
It's a fresh beginning. It's we're attempting something together, because these two, and in particular ways, so you got to look at Neptune, you got to look at Saturn, and we've reviewed them. So go look at Live for 2025, or if you took the deeper story of 2025, go look there, refresh yourself. And they're in preview. They're not there permanently yet. So we've got a few months in both cases, and look at the end dates of the preview. Again, those notes will help. We're giving ourselves a preview so that we can see when they move, because they're going to go retrograde, go back into Pisces, and go and say to us, so are there any I's we want to dot, T's we want to cross? Because we're finishing a cycle. Given we've been in preview, is there anything we now know or can sense that we need to address before we finish completely, go back into Aries and carry on for years? Okay, which happens in 2026. Okay.
And they moved in, thank you. They moved into that recently.
So Saturn moved there on the 24th of May, 4 days ago. And Neptune moved there a few weeks ago.
Wow. And so it's a big deal. I remember this now from the backstory, the deeper dive. Yeah. They'll do a little retrograde in the fall-ish. And then by 2026, as you just said, they'll both be there. And what's landing for me as well, not only are they changing zodiacal signs, which does not happen often, right? Every planet's cycle is different, right? Since it has a different orbit circumference.
Yep.
But in addition to that, they're shifting into Aries, which is the start of the cycle, which adds an even deeper meaning and significance.
Right. Particularly because everything is being kind of happening under the auspices of Pluto in Aquarius.
Pluto in Aquarius, which is the larger meta level radical framework that's holding all of this into even deeper significance.
Hell yeah, because given all, like, take all of this into account in recorded history, and that's a big deal when it comes to astrology, because astrology's been around a long time. We've never seen this team up ever. So it may have occurred before there were human beings walking around on the earth, but in recorded history, never seen this before.
Recorded history could mean like thousands of years.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Okay, so this is the fractal time thing that Greg Braden has been writing about, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for help, because this is all part of me. I'm starting to grok it in a way that I can also make sense of it myself and help others make sense of like why now is like potent is an understatement.
Potent is a vast understatement. Yes. Yep. And it explains why we're seeing what we're seeing in the world around us, in the headlines, and there's more to come. I mean, we're just beginning. When we're thinking about this, we're in the very, very, very early days of transformation and rebirth, but we're also seeing the ending of things so that we can transition into rebirth. Is that fun? No. For a lot of us, it's uncertain and all the things. So, but if you witness the themes and give yourself time to grok, and that's a great word, especially for you personally and for your work, then, because this is a very complex art form. If you give yourself time to grok it and don't, what the world has taught us to do is get it, like, there is no,
because it's ever unfolding and revealing itself. And
there's layers upon layers of context and nuance and interact, like there's just, so to be with it so that you can step out of the conditioned expectation you'll get it fast or get it now or whatever.
Like an academic approach,
Bingo.
Right? Okay.
Because we cannot approach this academically. There are some of us who are wired that way and will proceed because that's their way of being. That's their purposeful way. But for most of us, it isn't. And part of why this, so I'm just going to say this out loud. Part of why attempting to, the way we've been conditioned, just get it, or we feel like we're sucking from a fire hose, is two things. One, we are still attempting to find our native way to engage with complexity. And to step out of our minds is part of that process. Step out of the conditioning is part of that process. And second, we are still actively attempting, and if you hear your mind say, oh no, is to retrieve more of yourself and live more fully those retrieved parts of yourself into self-possession, into sovereignty. We live in a world where we have been routinely, repetitively rewarded or punished for being sovereign. Just saying. And so it's an ongoing process, and how you are sovereign or self-possessed, the more capacity for that you develop, the less confusing and overwhelming this is, and the easier it is to migrate into and reside in. This is my way. This is my way to engage with the information. This is what my life tells me to focus on. So you get better at experiencing your own life signals and direction. Does that make sense?
You become your, yes, it's like you enter into the becoming of your own, being your own internal compass.
Yes,
Not just
and
using it, but being it.
well, becoming. I think I love that word from you. Yay, yay. Because it's an ongoing process. I'm not in any way suggesting that you or everybody here hasn't been, deeply at work, committedly at work on that most, if not all of their life. But it is an ongoing, continuing process. We're not done. We're never, unless you experience full Buddha nature, you're still in the becoming. We all are. And part of the reason why we're going through what we're going through now, because Pluto in Aquarius and all this other stuff that recorded history says we've never been, is because there's parts of ourselves we're trying to bring into liberty together. Together. So it adds a dimension we've never had to walk through before. And so the idea that we're done as individuals, just nope, not.
So it's
and
not
that's
even
okay.
It's not even a relevant context or concept.
Right.
It's so that we're ever okay.
Yeah, so Melissa popped something into the chat that kind of speaks to this. What exactly is my best self? The notion of best self is deeply populated with propensity. Just saying. And so that question needs to be engaged with differently. Okay, just saying. Hope that's helpful.
Alex's hand is up as well.
Pardon?
Alex's hand is up.
Oh, Alex, hi.
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 Mine is, I guess, more of a share than a question.
Yes, please.
I'm just struck again by how I seem to be ahead of these things and already experiencing stuff. And like the part that you shared at the beginning about the story you tell about things. Several months ago, I experienced myself talking about my life as though I'm some sort of helpless victim. And even in the moment, I was like, oh my gosh, when I heard the words coming out of my mouth, like, I know better than this, the power of story. I'm a writer. I know that, So it gave me that moment to really like pull back and think about how I'm speaking about things.
Yes,
and the whole thing about home and home being sanctuary, that's always been important for me. So I've struggled a bit now that I'm staying in someone else's space for a while. And, I started like thinking about what I would do when I get my own place again. But lately I've felt like, no, I have to start now making it more like the space that I do have here. I have to make it more of a sanctuary for me, of a place where I can do my creative work and be comfortable, see how I can make it better. And luxury came in a bit with that actually yesterday, because I have an issue with the floors here and I miss being able to walk barefoot, just the sensation of it. And it's been like at the back of my mind for a while, but like yesterday, all of a sudden it became urgent. Like, I must solve this. I must be barefoot again.
Oh, wow. Okay. I would pay So I'm a person, when I speak or teach or facilitate or coach anything to do with my work and with hearing myself, and I don't mean this, I have to be barefoot. I am, as soon as I put something on my feet, my energetic nature is interfered with. Now, I don't let that, I'm very mindful. I don't let that story overpower me. Can I function well when I have something on my feet? Yes. So I am not robbed of power when I can't put my feet flat on the surface. I live 5 floors up. My feet cannot be on the earth when I'm working, but I can be in the story connected to the very best of my ability, the planet, with bare feet while I'm on the 5th floor. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So pay very close attention. The moment I hear the body providing signals of that type and clarity, I ask folks to pay very close attention and do it as often as possible, particularly while they're engaging in their purposeful work for themselves as much as for anybody else. So I'm really grateful you said that. Thank you so much, and yay.
Can I jump in? Because I had this
One
problem.
one sec, Melissa. Was that helpful to you, my friend?
Yes, it was. And thank you for everything that you've said. It's very helpful.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Thanks, Melissa. Your question or share?
Oh, I had the same challenge, and I bought a very small wading pool and planted grass, and I walked in the grass, and it worked.
Right on. Good for you. Good for you. You know, some people think this is not so hippy dippy. And those are labels and determinations by a culture that doesn't understand the importance and significance and imperative of connection with the elements that are most at work in our life. So thanks for sharing that, Melissa. When in the days when I traveled and spoke on stages, which is a while now, it's before Randy died, I would ask the people, the audience that I was going to be, that I had the honor of engaging with, if it was okay if I took my shoes off and spoke barefoot. In part because it helped facilitate my ability to serve as best I could, or as best I can, but also as an indirect signal that it's okay to be odd, if being odd your way, and I emphasize your way, makes it possible for you to serve best. I didn't make a big deal of it other than to ask permission and to engage in the understanding of permission and consent, because that was another big one for me, self-possession, sovereignty. There are a lot of people who are nudged from their internal world, their soul, whatever you want to call it, to recognize and exalt their elemental connections in nature, who don't because they have been conditioned or traumatized into turning away from it. And that's why, all weirdos welcome here, because WYRD in Old English was to walk your own unique way. That's what the word actually meant. And it got turned around some. So welcome all weirdos. We are almost 10 minutes to 3 Eastern time. So I just want to say out loud, Erica said, so then I'm the weirdo that can't stand to not have something on my feet at most times. Yep. Yes, ma'am. Does anybody else have an urgent, fiery, gotta share this, gotta ask this? Okay, if you do have something, it may not be fire, like a hair on fire, I gotta ask this or say this right now. Please remember, come on over to our private Facebook space and share or ask, because it could be in deep service to all of us. Remember, the way forward is together, and things are unlocked and made possible together. So please take advantage of that for yourself and for all of us. I'd be deeply appreciative.
Hi, this is Melissa again. I just popped something in the chat. I had been looking for it. This is a movement to have difficult discussions over potluck dinners, and it tells you all how to do it. It's wonderful.
That's
Just FYI.
Thank you. If you have access to the chat right now, you might want to copy and paste that if it interests you. Okay, thank you so much, Melissa. All right, friends. Again, my deepest thanks to Erica. So appreciate you. We could not be here doing what we're doing together without your contribution and your generosity. I appreciate it. All right, friends, please turn your mics on or even your videos on. Let's all say bye to each other before we bring things to a close.
What we look like.
What do I look like? Girl, I ask myself that 1,000 times a day. Hello.
You're beautiful, you are beautiful just the way you are.
Who's that?
Holly.
Hi. It's good to hear your voice, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Erica, and all who have participated today. Shine on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Lisa and Erica. I can't turn my screen on, or I would.
Okay. Thanks anyway. Take good care, friends. We'll be back here together a month from now. I believe it was can't remember the date in July, but the last Thursday. Okay. Take good care and remember the Facebook space. Bye, y'all.